Hey folks, welcome to Saturday Musings. I just got off the phone and I got an email and a Facebook message from a person who had a concern about a 50-year collection that they were collecting. And they spent a lot of money on this particular collection. And they wanted to know if a 50-year collection that they've been collecting ever since the 1930s, 1940s is going to be worth anything as far as that's concerned. And in the markets are all determined by what is currently wanted, right? I've done a couple of these things where there's the upcoming estate sale implosion, which is basically where a lot of people think their 50-year collections are worth a lot of money. Beanie Babies. We still have news reports in the print media saying if you have this Beanie Baby, it's worth, you can retire. I've done videos where the New York Post or some other kind of news organization went down the 50 things that you should have right now so you can retire or you can be a millionaire or a billionaire. These media outlets, they need to stop because the market is not dictated and predicated on what they think is valuable and what is not valuable. And the reason why I say that is because they give people what we call false hope. And let me give you an idea of what false hope looks like. You ready? Here, let me show you. Okay, so here we go. Snoopy ornament by United Feature Syndicate. Here, I got to put them in front of me. These things are the best things since sliced bread. Of course, I love Snoopy. My wife won't let me collect Snoopy because I would over collect them. And most people would say that this Snoopy ornament can easily be $300 because it's not being manufactured anymore. I would have to have about 12 of those in a box lot for it to bring $5. And that particular ornament was part of a 3-part ornament series, and that was $50. So I don't want it to deflate anybody's hopes that their 50-year collection has deflated, but I'm going to tell you, if you buy stuff from Franklin Mint, unless it is Star Trek or Star Wars or Barbie, in some cases, very limited amounts of Barbie, then it's generally going to bring what it's going to bring. If it is any of the mints, Bradford Mint, Bradford Exchange, or anything like that, it's going to bring what it's going to bring. Old antiques, with the number of antique stores that are going out of business because they can't sell antiques, why anybody thinks that their $1,500 antiques that they bought 35 years ago or is still has appreciated in value, it boggles my mind. There's quite a few people who are still believing that they can go to an auction and they can get an outstanding deal on a $35,000 chest of drawers with cabriolet legs, and it was built in the 1800s. And if they can pick it up for $15,000, then it's a deal. Well, they're bringing about $500. It's not even worth the money to bring it over on a ship. So when you're taking a look at antiques markets and old world style antiques, we have to understand that the markets determine the value, not what we have in our minds as to what the value is. And I get plenty of times somebody will say, well, but on eBay, well, eBay is a garage sale. I'm an auctioneer. I don't go to eBay. The reason I don't go to eBay is because when I go to eBay, I see all of these people who have this little ornament up there for $50, knowing that I would have to have about 12 of these in order to make $5. See what I'm saying? So people are overly subjective to something that's obviously objective, and it's called a bias. It's an information bias where they get on eBay and they go and they nitpick the highest valued stuff out there. And unfortunately, that's not how the markets work. None of the markets work that way. None of the markets will sit there and look at eBay and say, "Oh, well, you know what? We can get this for cheaper." It doesn't happen that way. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. So anyway, as I was saying before, your Franklin Mints, Bradford exchanges, and all of that other stuff, the stuff that does bring in money, and I'm not going to say that it brings in a bunch of money because I know better. The stuff that brings in money is Star Trek, Star Wars, some of your old classic metal cars that have high detailed, your model cars, high detail where you turn the tires, you can see the rack and pinion going, and if you spin the back wheels, you could see the drive shaft turning and that kind of thing. Those still have value. A lot of people think that their plates and bowls and cups and whatnot are worth a mint. A lot of your china, it's not worth it. If you had a 400-piece set, you might get $30 for it. And I know that your parents paid well over $1,400 for that set. Anything that is silver plated, find a recycler. Sterling silver still goes well. Gold still goes well. Some of your older toys from Fisher Price still goes well if they're still in the package, or if they're not in the package, but if they're still in good condition. New toys from the 80s. If you have toys from the 80s that are still in their packaging, like Transformers, they're worth a mint. Beanie Babies, I give them to my dog. We have a princess bear that was in either Washington Post or Washington Examiner or one of those newspapers. They said it was worth $35,000. Well, I gave one to my blue tick coonhound so she could play with it, because the newspaper is not telling the truth. I hate to say this, but anytime that you see any of those articles in any kind of media outlet, question the reliability of that, because there are journalists that aren't doing their job versus people who are on the front lines that are doing it every day. So it's really easy to think that a 50-year-old collection of things that they probably overpaid for, as far as that's concerned, is still worth some or quite a bit of money. And it's probably normal conditions to think that the money that you are putting forward toward a lot of the things that you're buying is simply going to appreciate in value. But that's just not the case when it comes to personal property. Cars, antique cars and stuff like that, maybe. But they have to be brand spanking mint. They have to be not a scratch on them. Or, I mean, you see people with Rolls Royces and microfiber towels out there making sure that there's not so much as a buff spot on the paint. Those are the ones that bring the high dollar things. I mean, you can have a 1981 Chevrolet Love Truck go for $12,000, and that's made out of beer can metal. Or you can have the original Batmobile sell by Spanky Asseter for $4.2 million. But that doesn't mean that all Batmobiles that are made by everybody else is going to be $4.2 million in your pocket. Right? So you have to understand that there's a secondary market for certain things, and then there's a secondary market for nothing. And the market's what drives all of that. So Microfiber blankets and stuff like that, I don't even bother selling those. You know why? It's because you could pick them up at the dollar store. Anything that you find at a dollar store, which is dollar store, Dollar Tree, Family Dollar, Dollar this, Dollar General, they're not worth anything. You paid a retail price because you thought it was a good deal, and then when it gets to the secondary market, the people who are buying it are level set of, this is a secondary market, it's got to go. Doesn't matter if it's an estate tag sale or if it's an estate auction. Now, that being said, there's a lot of misinformation out there about auctions and whatnot, and I'm here to tell you that a lot of that is because those people, especially real estate brokers, want their commission at the full price of 5 to 6% versus actually having it to go to auction and they get nothing, or they get a 25% referral fee, which is going to be less than if they just said, well, we're going to charge full price. So that's where a lot of your misinformation comes from, is from people who really don't want you to sell it in any way. They don't want you to sell it in any other method than what they are running, so that it's all self-proclaimed nonsense. That being said, a little bit of news. Of course, everybody knows that Netflix used to have a DVD service, and they have now canceled that DVD service. So the price of DVDs, you would think, would go through the roof. Nope, there's still $1.50 at the local thrift store. So that whole collection of DVDs that you have, even if they're unwrapped, it's just like old Laserdiscs or old CDs. They are eventually going to be replaced by technology at some point in time. And when that happens, then they're going to continue to fall in value and prices, and they're not going to be worth much anymore. So that being said, folks, I'm just here to tell you, don't listen to those who say that anything is valuable, who is not in the industry that determines what is valuable and what is not. You have Tiffany lamps that are sold by JCPenney for $119. Some people think that they have $1,000 Tiffany lamp. Well, no, you have a $119 Tiffany lamp. If you go back to the 1930s when Tiffany had lamps on the desks of judges, some of those are worth about $300 to $400, which are more than what's in JCPenney. So you have to understand, if it had a barcode on it when you bought it, chances are the value of it dropped 50% as soon as you brought it home. And some of that stuff, like the Fisher-Price video recorder that everybody thought was too expensive, or too expensive at the time when it was $55, $59, that would do video recording on a 8-track cassette. You can pick those up now for $1,000, because guess what happened is Fisher-Price made a boo-boo, and they put broadcast equipment inside of the little itty-bitty Fisher-Price thing. And it was a DLR set, but it would do it on video cassette. Or not video cassette, but it would do it on cassette tapes. So, that being said, you have to understand the markets. You have to understand what's good, what's not. I just went through a couple of toys, and anything that's Bradford Mint, Bradford Exchange, or anything like that, it's highly subjective. So don't believe anybody who says that your Beanie Babies are worth a mint, or your baseball card collection is worth a $1 billion, because I can tell you that baseball card collecting, if it's not a Yu-Gi-Oh, or if it's not something that is currently on the shelves of Walmart that flies off the shelves, chances are that your baseball cards pre-1980s is going to be worth more money than anything post-1980s, especially when they started mass producing the same card over and over and over again, and it doesn't have that bubblegum smell. And generally, I tell people, if you have baseball cards that still have the bubblegum smell, those are higher value than those that don't have a bubblegum smell. Or the ones that don't have the bubblegum smell, you can pretty much throw them away, unless it's like a Michael Jordan or something like that. But anyway, that is it for today's rant. I will make a video that's a little bit longer that goes down through all of this. I already did one where they were saying that they meaning the media were saying if you have these 15 things or 50 things that you could retire. We all know that's not true. So remember, folks, I'm Matt Price. I'm your real estate broker and your auctioneer. My job on this planet is to make sure you don't get ripped off. 919-614-6288. I got to go play with the kids. They got a broken car, so I get to go solder a wire together. I'll talk with you later. Have a great weekend.